It's always difficult to relive what happened last year, only because of the long-awaited truth to be finally acknowledged of our inherent rights as a Mi'kmaq people.
Satan and all his works and all his empty promises?
I do.
Do you believe in God, the Father Almighty, the Creator of heaven and earth?
I do.
Do you believe in Jesus Christ, his only Son, our Lord, who was born of the Virgin Mary, was crucified, died, and was buried, rose from the dead, now is seated at the right hand of the Father?
I do.
Nitimi kaho, ka uskitam, ka nishno na tongkwasanok na yohaji na akiok na wabanisunu kwato timonok, na yohaji na minike songaneto, nuta minike songaneto, yohaji nishno na tongkwasan yohajena. Our ceremonies are relevant to us as they were prior to Columbus. How we live our life, our worldview, our land, the waters, the fish, everything is connected to each other in more deeper ways than how we've come to be organized by North American social policies and legislation and so forth.
Community of Escanobit, it means a lookout point. It's a traditional meeting place and gathering place for our people. It's located right on the water, on the shoreline of the Miramichi Bay.
Here comes my line.
We played and lived in our whole life around that water. It revolves around that water. It is integral to our culture and our people and our livelihood. So it's a very important part.
We've been here historically for over 11,000 years. I just don't understand why there's not enough for us. I mean, this beautiful territory, I was raised swimming in these waters, and it's a shame that I can't feed myself and teach my children how to fish. I mean, my grandfather taught me, and my brothers and uncles taught me, and now I'm not allowed teaching my children. I had my son this morning reduced to tears because he couldn't go fishing no more, that it was too dangerous for him, and I wouldn't let him go. By doing that, the Canadian government has robbed us of our right to raise our children in accordance to our culture. And my son reduced me to tears. I mean, I had to bring him with me just because that is our way, and that's being robbed from us.
Just want to go and fish, that's all I want to do. Make some money, save some for food. But if they try to stop us, I'm gonna be out there too, fighting with them. I fought last year and the year before. Be out there again this year. I'm only using the dory. That's all and I'm hauling the traps by hand. I got no machine. Got no hauler to haul them up.
You don't mind being alone in your boat?
I'm used to it there. I've been doing it all these years since I was 12 years old. I'm just gonna keep practicing our rights, and if anybody tries to stop me or any of us, I'll be out there fighting with them. And if I go to jail and if I come back out, I'll be out there again.
Makdoig Moon is black bear. I go in French school. I go to Church, which I get Mick Mac, and he doesn't. All he knows is French. All the kids in his school, not everybody. They all know English. Some, but not everybody. Michelle can only speak a little bit English. Michelle studied my school. What school is he in? Iguac. The Iguac school's French. Oh.
When I was younger, when I was a kid, I didn't stay here in the Burnt Church Reserve. I was sent to a Shubanagali residential school. I spent about 7 years there.
What was it like there?
I wouldn't like to
Talk about it.
talk about it at all. That's how it was.
Yeah.
And then I come home, and there was a company, Anderson's company, and I fished for them about 15 years every summer. When I first started, it was $1.50 a day, and gradually went up, and last of it I was getting $2.75 a day. Then finally I decided I want to fish for myself. So we made traps, brother and I. We made 400 traps in all winters. But the fish were down, and the government that time, they started buying back the licenses from the white community. And, but me, they didn't offer me nothing buy back. Well, I had no license. I had a permit, like from the treaty, you know, from the treaty. And so I voluntarily gave it up 3-4 years. And the fish start to come back again, and the fish ever since has been good. And I wanted to get back into it that time, about 15 years ago. But they told me I had to buy a license. I said, I don't have to buy a license. I need my permit back because I gave it up. I never got nothing for it. I was denied my permit.
We've watched this guy. What? We've watched.
Yeah, we've watched. Commercial fishing season starts here on May 1st and it ends on July 1st. 8 weeks of it. We go by a communal license from Burnt Church, so everybody, all the native boats here fish under communal.
The fall fishing is for food fishery.
They're trying to take that away from us.
But
We were all out there in the fall, like us here, except him. I don't blame him.
Yeah.
He didn't want to risk his livelihood.
Yeah, his rigging and his gear and stuff like that. Eh?
What we catch in the summer, that's just a little money to get by day by day. But like during the winter and stuff like that, it's harder. We need to be on welfare, or we have to be on welfare where we don't want to be. You know, like us, we would like to work, and it's just not enough. There's no work.
I got to provide for my family, and this is the only way I can provide for my family. When Marshall came through, it was just like winning a lottery, a little lottery at that. And I had hope. I could see my children smiling now, like in the future, with nice clothes and something to eat on the table.
En 1993, Donald Marshall est arrêté pour avoir pêché de l'anguille hors saison à l'aide de filets non réglementaires et pour avoir vendu le fruit de sa pêche sans permis. La question consiste à savoir s'il existe un traité qui lui accorde le droit de prendre et de vendre du poisson, ce qui l'exempterait d'avoir à respecter les règlements du ministère des Pêches et Océans. Les signataires du traité de paix et d'amitié de 1752 étaient Son Excellence Peregrine Thomas Hobson, le major Jean-Baptiste Cope, chef de la tribu des Indiens Mi'kmaq, et les délégués de la côte est de la Nouvelle-Écosse et du Nouveau-Brunswick.
Il a été convenu que la dite tribu d'Indiens ne serait pas empêchée de chasser ni de pêcher, mais qu'elle aurait la liberté de le faire en tout temps, Et si les Indiens croient qu'un poste de troc est nécessaire à la rivière Shubenacadie ou à tout autre endroit où ils séjournent, ils pourront en établir un et y entreposer les marchandises dont ils pourront disposer à leur gré. Et qu'en même temps, les 10 Indiens auront toute liberté d'aller vendre à Halifax ou dans tout autre village de cette province des peaux, des plumes, de la volaille, du poisson ou tout autre article qu'ils auraient à vendre, où ils auront la liberté d'en disposer le plus avantageusement possible.
Ces accords ont été renouvelés et ratifiés lors de traités antérieurs et ultérieurs pour les chefs, pour les dites tribus, leurs descendants et les descendants de leurs descendants pour toujours. Après avoir été reconnu coupable de ces 3 chefs d'accusation, Marshall fait appel du jugement à la Cour d'appel de la Nouvelle-Écosse et doit essuyer un refus. Il fait ensuite appel à la Cour suprême du Canada qui l'accepte en déclarant «
Rien de moins ne saurait maintenir l'honneur et l'intégrité de la couronne dans ses relations avec le peuple Mi'kmaq pour préserver la paix et conserver leur amitié. »
Le 17 septembre 1999, 6 ans après l'arrestation de Donald Marshall, la Cour suprême rend son jugement. Elle affirme que le peuple Mi'kmaq a obtenu le droit de pourvoir à sa propre subsistance par la chasse, la pêche, la cueillette et le troc pour ce que l'on appelait en 1760 le nécessaire. La Cour ajoute
Ceci devrait être interprété dans le contexte moderne comme l'équivalent d'une source de revenus raisonnable.
The day the decision came down, it was very joyous and everyone was happy and it was like, yes, you know, we can now do something to support ourselves. Our rights had been reconfirmed. We had the right to exercise our access to the fishery. And the community went fishing.
What happened last summer was, well, a few of us went out there, started taking our traps out there to back up our management plan that was created by James Ward and Lloyd Augustine. And so a few of us went out there to start putting action behind the management plan. The women that were there, one of them is my sister, Megan Mahan, Karen Somerville. It was these 2 women that I took out in the water that started setting out their own traps. They're the ones that started putting the traps in the water first. And it took the ladies, the women of our community, to make it happen. And I'm deeply thankful for them.
Yes! Karen and Megan Mahan with our first lobsters. Yahoo!
Everyone was happy. Everyone was glad. Everyone, I guess, figured like, you know, all right, everybody going into the water, fish is money, many lobsters you want, and go ahead and sell them. But it's...
And they were, like, fish buyers were buying them. Like, but I guess they were being threatened by non-natives. So they just wouldn't come back.
Les Mi'kmaq ont à peine commencé à faire valoir leurs droits que déjà les pêcheurs non autochtones exercent des pressions sur le gouvernement pour faire cesser leur pêche au homard.
No one should ask ordinary, hard-working inshore fishermen to pay the price for decades of national ineptitude towards one of our founding peoples. The fishing itself in the bay simply has to stop.
Fishermen see that there's still trap there and that it's not a substantial amount of trap that's been picked up. I think that it will be more and more difficult to stop the fishermen.
Dans une démonstration de force, les pêcheurs non autochtones protestent et menacent de prendre l'affaire en main. Des incendies sont allumés, des milliers de cages sont vandalisées et les 2 communautés sont en guerre.
There's a lot of tension when you fish alongside a non-native fisherman, you know. Like a friend of mine, he was fishing in the spring. They took his traps, they cut his traps, they threw him back in the water. They'd run his buoys over, tell him you're a long way from home. I know because I lent him my traps and I lost him. He lost some of my traps, but you know, that's the problem we have. We can't even fish side by side each other when they say we could. You know what I mean? There's so much anger and hatred out there.
En 53, il y avait un certain respect là, qui était vraiment une gentillesse, tu dirais. Là, que moi, je m'en souviens de ça là, quand on voyait dans les magasins. Puis à les côtes, c'était comme des frères. Tu sais, là, dans le temps, là, quand ça pêchait, il y avait des vieilles cabanes qui restaient à la semaine. Là. Puis c'était tout le temps ensemble, ça sharait le manger, tout. Puis, mais là, à cette heure, comme je dis, pour moi, c'est le gouvernement qui handle mal la situation à cette heure, que ça développe, ça devient pire à la place de meilleur. Là. Les gens pensant qu'ils en veulent plus qu'il y a dans les droits, là, tu sais, il y a des droits qui ont été écrits, mais à cette heure, il y a beaucoup de gars qui me disent, ben, c'est comme si ils veulent d'autres choses, là. Tu sais, là, mais moi, je connais pas les détails assez pour savoir vraiment ce qu'ils veulent dans le moment, là, tu sais, là.
The racism and the hatred has become a very evident part of our daily living. Coming out of our community, it's very evident in some areas. It's really unfortunate because with the Acadian people and the Mi'kmaq, especially in our area, there's a long cooperative history there of where we were always able to get along. It is unfortunate that some has put a very negative light on their society, that they've cut our traps, they've shot at our people, they've beat them up at local establishments and constantly fighting, and racial slurs being thrown here, and for the government to feed on this in this day and age, it is a very sad truth, a very sad reality that the government ain't fighting for conservation, they're fighting for control.
The history at Escanobidich is one of the lobster fishery being essentially an Aboriginal fishery until the 1940s, when there was a licensing system used to squeeze the Aboriginal people out of the industry. It wasn't as if they'd never been there. So people went back into the water saying we're exercising our right. And as we know, the state, rather than giving effect to the rights, rather than limiting the fishing of the white fishermen, brought its full force of full police authority to bear with helicopters and patrol boats and guns and observation by airplane, RCMP detachments, dozens of RCMP cars and so forth on the people of Escanobidich. And the amazing thing is that was all to enforce a regime which had essentially been declared unconstitutional.
Le village d'Escanobidich existe depuis des milliers d'années et constitue la plus grande communauté Mi'kmaq au Nouveau-Brunswick. Les Mi'kmaq vivaient dans des wigwams en écorce de bouleau. Ils passaient l'été dans des villages de pêcheurs. En avril et en mai, les hommes pêchaient le saumon. Les femmes et les enfants cueillaient des têtes de violon et d'autres légumes verts. Puis, le grand esturgeon arrivait. Il pouvait parfois peser jusqu'à 400 kilos. La coutume était de pêcher le soir en s'éclairant d'une torche. L'été était une saison occupée. Les gens cueillaient des fruits, des baies et prenaient toutes sortes de poissons. Ils en séchaient ou fumaient une partie et la conservaient pour la saison froide. Ils voyageaient facilement grâce à leur merveilleuse invention, un léger canot à dos rond en écorce de bouleau, capable d'affronter la haute mer. Lorsque l'hiver arrivait, ils se réfugiaient dans les forêts à l'abri des arbres pour chasser le chevreuil, l'orignal et le caribou. Le troc a toujours fait partie de leur vie. Ils échangeaient des biens avec d'autres tribus et en 1581, ils ont commencé le commerce des fourrures avec des marchands venus de France. En 1702, un grand nombre de Français étaient établis dans différentes parties de la Miramichi et dans la région environnant le territoire Mi'kmaq. Les nouveaux arrivés avaient amené avec eux des maladies jusque-là inconnues. Une seule épidémie tua plus de 16 000 Mi'kmaq dans les Maritimes. L'influence des Européens changea la vie des Mi'kmaq, qui s'en trouvèrent appauvris. La guerre entre l'Angleterre et la France pour contrôler le territoire Mi'kmaq et ses ressources naturelles se poursuivait. Au cours d'une bataille menée par les Anglais, les Mi'kmaq protégèrent les Acadiens en les cachant dans des endroits secrets. Les Anglais brûlèrent tout, y compris l'Église. C'est ainsi qu'Eskenaubridge acquit son autre nom, Burn Church. Avec le temps, les nouveaux arrivés prirent possession des ressources, des rivières et des forêts. Ils abordaient la pêche de façon différente et sur une plus grande échelle. Plusieurs espèces de poissons sont disparues. Les stocks de saumon se sont mis à diminuer et les Mi'kmaq se retrouvèrent privés d'une ressource qui les avait sustentés pendant des milliers d'années. En mars 1805, les vastes territoires Mi'kmaq sont réduits à une réserve de 2058 acres. En plus de Tabusintac et Pocamouche qui font 10 000 acres. Pendant longtemps, le homard avait été considéré comme une denrée de pauvres. Les Mi'kmaq le pêchaient sans interférence, mais tout allait bientôt changer.
Well, I have to enforce to make sure that we have conservation as our priority, because if we let people fish whenever they want, whatever they want, we're not going to have a resource, and my mandate is to protect the resource.
They are being told a lot of wrong things. There's not a whole lot of us here, you know, and there's not a whole lot of traps or a whole lot of equipment we have. I know that in May, the non-natives have approximately 270,000 traps. And that's just the zone 23 in our Miramichi here. Now, we come up with, they wanted us to have only 40 traps. What does that tell you? 40 traps is not going to feed the rest of our people or bring any income to our people. We're not going to deplete the stocks. We're all conservationists here. You know, we know, we've been doing it since the beginning of time. Our ancestors did it, we are doing it. We make sure that the undersides are thrown back in the water. We make sure that the females are properly put back in the water gently. These are the things that we do. We can regulate our own resources. We only catch enough to survive. We only catch enough to pay our bills. We only catch enough to put clothes on our children so they'll start looking good in schools. Enough to put food on our table. Enough to generate a little income for a family. Not too long after that, the DFO, you know, kind of came around where we were. Started wondering what we were doing, and we had approximately about 10 traps at the time in the water. So every time we come back in, they'd go around our traps and start pulling them out. This was just going on a daily basis.
Got a call this morning that there was a DFO boat in the water, so we went and headed out to respond to it. Picked up a couple guys. We got in here. Realized it looked like the DFO boat was trying to probably gather some information for a future raid.
We're at it again, are we?
We're making sure you don't take their traps.
We shall fight in the sea. But we will never surrender.
I'm very associated with the concept of warrior, being one to begin with. We promote the concepts of honor. And for me, I always have to give a definition when I talk about honor because it's what drives us, what compels us to do what we do. And honor, for us, being a warrior, is having the moral strength to do what's just at all times, regardless of the consequences. Even when, for instance, here, we are outnumbered, outgunned, and overwhelmed by the Canadian forces. We still have to make that stand. We don't get a salary. Physically, if we're talking about being beaten, abused, possibly hurt, or even sent to jail. But it's something we take on very willingly. We embrace the idea of what we're doing because we know in the end what we're doing is honorable. Actually, I have a degree in political science with a specialization in international relations. I'm former military. I was with the Canadian militia when I was younger, and then I went down to the American military. I was with an elite unit. Afterwards, I attended university, and I did my thesis on Aboriginal self-determination, on how about we have to take the initiative. If we want to control our destinies and create a destiny that's going to be beneficial for our people, we have to be willing to stand up and go out and take that political initiative and make it happen, even if it means that we have to be at odds with the Canadian government. For a lot of people, they may see that as detrimental. They may say, oh my God, why? Well, look at the consequences involved. But I always ask, look at the consequences of inaction. If our condition right now, what we consider peace with the Canadian nation, produces the highest suicide rates in the world, some of the highest incarceration rates in the country, alcohol, drug, spouse, child abuse, way beyond anything comparable to the non-native society, why are we trying so hard to maintain this condition? So if I stand and make a fight for my people, I'm following the traditions of a warrior, looking out for the next 7 generations. And I'm doing something that probably won't happen unless somebody takes on this type of mentality.
What we realized we had to do is take our own resources into our hands. Under our Escanobage fishing policy, we have the capacity to issue our own licenses. We take a unique approach to it that vast majority of our people fish in the fall. That's our traditional fishing season. The non-native society and the commercial fishing, they fish in the spring. But during the fall season, after the molting, they're more plentiful within the bay. I've had single women with 3, 4 children fishing 3, 4 traps, 3 or 4 traps a day, are able to supplement and give their children a better life. We do not issue 300 traps per individual. We issue 4 per individual. It gives approximately 6,100 traps in the fall to fish. We have never, ever, nowhere near, ever came to fishing that amount. There's some people that don't fish on the larger scale. They fish to supplement their income. They fish to supplement their food storage. They fish to maintain a culture. You can't reflect that within a DFO's agreement. You can't address that. They are constantly taking a parental attitude of where we know what's best, not only for you, but for the resource. Mind you, they brought many species to decimation, to the brink of extinction, and they are still thinking they know what's best. If they were honorable, and if they had a grain of decency and good sense, they would take this opportunity as a wonderful opportunity to learn how to live in balance with the Mother Earth as the Mi'kmaq do. And we as Mi'kmaq people feel that we are also defenders of our Earth, that these unbalanced approaches that they're taking have to stop. They have to. We are destroying the resources that feed us, and they're not going to be here forever, especially the way they're going at them now. Instead of us being perceived as a liability and a threat, we should be perceived as a partner, as a true partner in this country.
The chiefs of the First Nations of New Brunswick have requested a bit of time to be able to get back to their constituents and their councils as well as their elders. It was a very good discussion, and we look forward to working with the Government of Canada under a bilateral process.
You'd be looking at extinguishing Aboriginal rights.
No, we're not looking at extinguishing Aboriginal rights or the like. We no longer have an extinguishment policy, and that's been made very clear over and over again across the country. And I want to make it very clear here to you that that's not the intent. We're trying to define, of course, without having the courts continue to do it for us, what a treaty, the treaty that already exists, would look like in a modern context.
The Atlantic Policy Congress consists of First Nations chiefs from all over the Atlantic provinces, including ourselves from eastern Quebec. And the alliances that we form as Mi'kmaq, Maliseet, Passamaquoddy is a very important one. In the Atlantic provinces, we have never surrendered our lands. Our treaties will be the mechanism that we need to use in the coming years in fighting with the federal government.
There seems to be an assumption here that we're going to integrate into the licenses regime. And it's unfortunate that there's not emphasis on looking at what is wrong with that regime and us coming up with more practical solutions based on our treaty right. Right from the onset, when that Supreme Court decision came down and said that the federal government have the right to regulate this, we should have said, no, your regulations are not adequate. That is what's depleting the resources.
We produce our own licenses. We do our own regulations. They have to recognize our licenses that we already issue for that purpose. So it's kind of like opposite of what they're proposing, you know what I mean?
What we want to do is develop our own enforcement branch, our own fisheries branch, our own ability to enforce our own regulations. In the survey, I noticed there isn't any mention of any of that. I have concern that the next round of Marshall, that we're gearing toward more licenses.
Milky Nadi, Muzias de Mokilaish. Yeah, the part low and gobble no, Jigu and the Jiggly one, like Igmanala, Emu Jigsaw, lay out the Jiga, Listiguishka, Tamkuga, Ebegwit, Gala, Stamialam Kabultijis, which you know. Mustigala looks a concert commonness, Giswok, Jigala looks sick as a tram. Walla win. Mudejimal Gigana, a gobble no, a pitcher looks no negamoina.
I think a license on the outgoing market before the Marshall decision was going at approximately $50,000 to $70,000. Since the Marshall decision, I have heard it fluctuate to $175,000 to $200,000 per license. The only way we can access those licenses under the DFO management regime is if we enter into an agreement with the DFO. We have a Supreme Court right. We're the only ones with a Supreme Court right to earn a livelihood off of fishing. And yet we are the ones on welfare. And we look around us from non-native fishermen to the Minister Dhaliwal himself are all extracting salaries and benefits from the fisheries, which none of them have a Supreme Court right to. We do.
You know, there was a judgment of the Supreme Court who said that there are rights for natives, but that the government has the responsibility for enforcing the protection of the fishery.
We will not allow people to go out and fish illegally. We will not allow unauthorized fishing, and we will take enforcement action.
I remember one morning when there was a whole fleet coming towards us, and we jumped on our dories. And these are just small little dories, about 16-foot to 12-foot dories. And we all looked at each other, and we all kind of just shouted at each other not to stand your ground. You know, we're fishing here, we're not doing anything wrong. I said, that's all we're doing. But they came, and then there were so many of them.
Hey, this side. Give me the phone. Window! Yeah! Go back to shore! We're on the line with the Deputy Minister. Go to shore, Window!
Every time they came, there was a little more aggression. And every time that we went out, we were really unsure about any one of us coming back to shore. So it really got a little scary for a lot of us.
You gotta leave our jump flow, man. What the fuck's wrong with you? Protect your fucking legs. You're violating our rights, you know that.
behind them. Holy fuck, they're trying to ram them. Holy fuck!
Look, he's running!
Fuck, they're spinning them.
But for some, I've seen the looks in their eyes. You know, I've seen the proudness in their eyes, and I know that they were committed. They made a commitment to stay in the waters, regardless of their own safety, and that put a lot of pride back in our hearts.
Our inherent rights are being threatened, worse than they ever been before. We are living in a dangerous time right now as far as the relationship with the federal government and the Aboriginal people. Because of my race, because of who I am, it's a constant fight and struggle just to survive. For example, my daughter, she's 14 years old. Statistically, she's supposed to drop out of school by, 15 and 16, and a strong possibility of committing suicide. Those are just because she's an Aboriginal female, because of the fact that, of who we are. And trying to beat the odds, for my children is hard work.
I watched my son, Leo. There was a whole bunch of DFOs out on the waters, and he was out there all by himself. And they were just going real fast, trying to tip the boat. I was terrified, really. I was terrified, and there was nobody else around, not our boats or anything. It was just him there, and I couldn't take it. I went in my bedroom, and I covered up under the blanket, cried my heart out. I mean, I never cry in front of people, and it's just the idea that I pray a lot. I pray a lot about God taking care of them, and I knew He would. So after a while, somebody knocked on my door and said, Leo got away. I am very proud of them. But the things that I go through when they're out there, but they'll survive. Every one of them will survive. And they'll get what they're fighting for, no matter what, I guess.
I'm very proud to be from Burn Church. It pulled us to what I seen last fall. It pulled us together like one big family, and when we did that, it made us 10 times as strong. It wasn't really till the fall time when I wanted to be sworn in as a peace officer for Burn Church. On September 12th, we heard a distress call from the chief. On our way to go respond to the call, we were intercepted by RCMP. When they came on our boat, we were tear gassed, and it was pretty hard. We couldn't see nothing up until like they got really close, and They stormed our boat, they shoved us right down, and they had the machine guns there, the tacticals. One guy had his knee on my neck, and he held it to the back of my head, and they did that to all of us on the boat there. I told them that we were officers, and they just ignored us.
Well, I couldn't see anything when we were tear gassed. The other boat took off, and when we were being towed in, we saw that other boat upside down in the water.
The Restigouche boat, they capsized, and all the guys flew off the boat. That's how hard they were rammed by the RCMP.
I was afraid that they'd killed them. I asked them what happened to the guys and stuff like that, and they wouldn't answer us. They wouldn't tell us where they're taking us. They just wouldn't answer us anything. It seemed like they paraded us through Niguac. When we were coming in, there were so many people at Niguac Wharf. All the non-natives were just laughing at us and stuff like that. It was awful. When you go to Niguac and you talk to non-natives up there, when it's not fishing season, they're pretty nice. They're decent. But once it's fall time, they don't even speak to us. People don't even wave at us no more. There are some non-natives I know that support us. They say, you guys have to right to fish, But it seems like those people don't speak out on our behalf.
I felt pretty sad because as a kid, growing up, I looked up to the RCMP as I thought maybe I'd be an RCMP. And what I seen last fall are just all they are to me now are just maybe modern day Indian fighters.
How we got involved is that we have about 100-year-old protocol. When another Mi'kmaq nation asks for help, we just can't stand by and see them suffer. We got a call, and then 5 minutes later, we're packing up and on our way. We had a convoy going, so as soon as we left here, we could see the RCMPs around the surrounding area and sort of like had an eye on us. So really, we said, well, we'll go as far as we can and we'll see if they stop us. We arrived, with no major problems. And they were very, very happy. We could see that, when we were driving our boats, and a lot of their people coming in and hugging us and shaking our hands and saying, we're very, very happy that you decided to help us. I seen that, we are so strong, when we help each other and stick with each other, and even if the results aren't something that we want, at least one thing for sure, we're united.
De plus en plus de membres des Premières Nations viennent soutenir les gens d'Escanopeditch dans leur résistance.
What happens here in the East Coast affects the West Coast fishery. Native people all across the country, they're starting to know their rights. They're starting to exercise those rights. But also an important thing is that we have to protect those rights by any means necessary. I was on the boat with Danny. We got swarmed, and DFO pretty much ran over us.
I just seen something coming. I looked over and I just hit the floor. As soon as I hit the floor, the boat came right over top of me.
While I was laying there, I was pushing their boats away so that they wouldn't grab me. They hit me on the back a few times, and they were trying to hit me in the face, but I ducked, and I climbed up on the boat again. I managed to stand up, and they hit me from behind, and I fell forward into their boat, and that's when they grabbed me.
It was a lucky thing for me that morning, because normally I go out there and I don't wear a life jacket, but for some reason that morning I had a life jacket on. And I think that's what saved me, because with all the gear that I had on, I hadn't expected to be in the water that quickly, and the boats kept coming right up to me, and I'd kick the boats away and tell them to screw off or whatever. Finally, they pepper sprayed me, from one boat. I tried to swim away from that one, and another boat would be pepper spraying me to go back to the other boat type of thing. So finally, I couldn't see, and there were, all this stuff was going in my mouth too, and it was getting hard to breathe, and finally they took me on board.
They charged me with obstruction, assault, and assault with a deadly weapon.
What was the deadly weapon?
A paddle.
I was told that I assaulted 9 DFO officers that morning, and I was the one floating in the water.
I'm a peace officer for the Burnt Church First Nations people. It was a job at one time I used to really enjoy. Over the past couple of years, it hasn't been too good at all. Don't ever think that I'm going to be standing beside the RCMP or the Department of Fisheries and Oceans. No, I can't, and I won't.
Au Nouveau-Brunswick, c'est la GRC qui assure les services de police provinciale. C'est son devoir de maintenir la paix et de mener une enquête sur les événements qui se sont produits sur l'eau cet été.
Should the RCMP not proceed with laying charges, we'll be left with the definite proof that there are 2 levels of laws in Canada. One for the First Nations, one for the other Canadians.
What we've seen is extremely un-Canadian, and it's not the Canadian way to maintain the peace in Canada, so we'll be looking at this very, very seriously.
We have an obligation to enforce whenever there's unauthorized or illegal fishing, and we'll continue to do that.
I was still in the military, and during that time I went through the Oka crisis, being on the wrong side of the fence type of thing. Now, I came out of the military, I think, just in time, because I didn't want anything to do with the federal government at all, considering what was happening with our people here. When we had the conflict there, I was doing a lot of sweat lodge ceremonies for the warriors and the people that wanted to get involved with it. When we're out in the water and stuff, knowing that we've done all we can, spiritually to prepare ourselves to do what we have to do. You're not afraid. You do what needs to be done, and it's a comfort, to know that what you're doing is the right thing. There's no. I don't hesitate to do what I did last summer, because I was well prepared, spiritually, emotionally, physically, everything all fit together.
But when individual First Nations people, such as Burnt Church, take necessary and courageous steps to raise the standards for all, I will be there to stand with them. When they point out to Canadians that fairness and equity are essential, if there is ultimately to be social peace and justice in this country, I will be there to stand with them. And I think every effort should be made by the minister himself to give instructions to his people. First of all, to back off, and to give instructions to his people to consider that the management plan that has been developed by the Burnt Church, to be able to sit down and resolve this, and hopefully that some logic and rationale will prevail, so that we do not have an Oka situation.
There was quite a few haulers taking up the traps, and big Zodiacs were defending them. One of them got me. I get run over. Could have been my back, my head, my leg, pretty close.
I didn't think nothing would happen. I didn't think it would be that serious. I thought it would just be another raid, take our traps, and cat and mouse game. But that morning when they ran my friends over, it was something else. Oh, I thought they killed somebody. I couldn't believe what they did. It happened so fast, it was unbelievable. I thought they ran my friends over and that was it. And then I see my friend stand up and I seen the boat turn around, made a circle, and I thought like they were just gonna pull up beside them and try to arrest them and do their thing, but the boat didn't stop and just ran over them a second time. I didn't think the first time was good enough.
Holy fuck! Oh, they're gonna get run over!
Fuck, they knocked the people in the water.
When we got towards the boat, I shouted at my brother, Brian, to pull him up. And he was trying to pull him up, but these officers were hitting us with batons, preventing us from picking him up from the water. So he was really struggling for his life here. A few of our friends created a diversion for them, so they came and started throwing things like rocks at them. And that gave us enough time to lift this young individual in the boat and take off from there. There's times that you get numb to it a little bit, and then you start realizing that, okay, we must do this. We must keep going. We cannot stop now. We cannot bow down now to these guys. And we didn't, so. I tip my hat off to these young men because they got the boat out of the water maybe about an hour after it happened and got another motor, put the motor back on the boat, and off they went out again.
I didn't really see how bad it was until I saw the tape of what happened, and that was when it was really scary. I almost died out there, and I don't want to leave my kids yet. And it's hard to believe that we have to fight this hard for something that's ours already. This fall, if this happens again, I won't be out there.
No.
I just it's not time for me to leave this world yet. So, don't want to leave my kids yet.
La saison de pêche de l'automne 2000 était terminée et les coûts pour avoir empêché les Mi'kmaq d'exercer leurs droits s'élevaient à 15 millions de dollars.
You think it's going to end tomorrow, today? No. It continues. Until the people start seeing us, or the government starts seeing us as equals.
Au printemps 2001, la communauté n'avait pas encore signé d'entente avec le gouvernement canadien, mais 31 des 34 bandes Mi'kmaq avaient signé. La population d'Eskenaupitch était de plus en plus divisée par la pression croissante, et une atmosphère d'incertitude pesait lourd à l'aube de la prochaine saison de pêche automnale.
Yeah, I see partridges and squirrels, snakes, sometimes raccoons.
This winter, there was a baby seal on the water lost, and it was lonely, and it was on the icebergs all alone, and it was just a baby.
I seen 6 bears, one mother and 5 little baby bears way down near the highway. My dad stopped and looked at them. They were climbing up in the tree. Yeah. Looked real cute. I really liked that.
Entre-temps, les Mi'kmaq doivent rassembler des fonds pour se présenter en cours et faire face aux accusations de l'année dernière.
We don't have any funding to get counsel. We're running out of avenues. We're running out of ideas on how to beat this in court. It's very difficult for all of us to stand in front of them and watch them decide our fate. The Supreme Court of Canada recognized our inherent right to fish, and that's all we've been doing. I know I have a charge for assault and obstruction and Fishery Act, and also criminal codes of assault and obstruction. Apparently, one of the Department of Fisheries and Oceans said that I brushed up on him and touched him on the chest or whatever it was, and those are the charges we're looking at.
I'm to be sentenced on May 29th on my birthday, but I'll be fishing again right after that, probably the next day. What the court is doing to us is a process of criminalization. I've got no criminal record. I've always been a stand-up person within my own community. But when I go out into the water, very likely I will get charged. There will be jail time. I have to ask, I mean, are we at war? Is the Crown at war with us?
Think we're gonna get that legal funding? I certainly hope so. Yeah, I think so. Those are all our children watching us come out of court. My kid's on there. That's the Burn Church bus, eh? Yeah. Being dragged as criminals in front of our children, eh?
The legal side was definitely another crisis that we faced. There were problems with disclosures, there was problems with having no legal counsel on record to obtain the disclosures. People were being charged and not knowing why they were being charged or what offense that they had committed. All they knew is that they were going out fishing to exercise their treaty rights. And that would be the end of it. And you know, here we are today.
I know my grandparents 11,000 years ago fished the same territory I do. And not one, no one sitting in this room besides Aboriginal people can say that. And I have to sit here and prove to you it is a disgrace. Mr. Lavoie, he would like to say that seriousness is only measured by a jail term. I'll tell you, from the poverty of my First Nation, seriousness is measured in a lot of different ways. To have children come up to you with blood trickling down from their faces because where they live, and to be told, oh, it's not serious. The ramifications of what happened here today, if it goes in a negative direction, it very well could cost our people's lives. Getting the state-funded council is to make sure that our defense is that best possible defense that can come up with within your court systems. So I would like to respectfully submit those arguments to you, that this is in the interests of fairness.
Ultimately, the issue is one of social justice. The rights are arguments along the way, but what we're really talking about is addressing a massive dispossession, a massive denial of rights, denial of access to means of subsistence. It's a disaster to have the governments taking this very hard line and saying, you know, show us in every case, blueberry bush by blueberry bush and fishery by fishery and treaty by treaty and community by community that you still have the rights, or these rights exist, because they're creating a resentment and a pent-up desire for economic benefit, which will come back to haunt them, it seems to me. I mean, what message are you sending to people? They go to the court, they win, the government doesn't respect the decision. So what do you expect people to do? What are you teaching your kids? That the best thing to do is to pick up a gun? It's encouraging the most radical kind of response, which is just scary.
I can't respect these people because of what they've done to our people and what they've done to our children. They have scarred our community a great deal. And then they go back to their courts and they sit there like they're the good guys. And they choked out a few of our boys out there. One of them happened to be my brother. He was just coming home on the boat there. They got 2 Zodiacs ramming it. They boarded it, and he had to jump in the water. He stayed in the water approximately an hour at night. So stay away from these guys.
Your children will be embarrassed by what you're doing here. He went right by our face, and he took out his gun, and he pointed right at me. And I said, shoot! Shoot me!
They called my brother in that night and asked him to come back on the boat and nobody will harm him. And, you know, he's speaking to him in our language. Sure enough, my brother swims. And when he gets on board, they all grab him and choke him out and put a beating on him. They bruised his knees and his ankles and had marks around his throat. You know, that's the kind of stuff that they did.
My body was damaged in several areas, my knees, the back of my neck, my lower back, my tailbone. I was choked to unconsciousness and roughed up pretty bad. I was shackled down and to the point of where the circulation on my foot was actually turning purple. I myself come from a law enforcement background. I'm a former constable from Burnt Church First Nation. Went with the RCMP for a short period of time in an Aboriginal training program. From there, I moved to Chief of Police in my First Nation. So my children, my two boys, Isaac and Darian, were both raised with me being a police officer. And the saddest part of that time was when my children had asked me if I was a bad guy.
I feel sad because what happened to all the people that them fighting for our rights of fishing, and now a couple of them were in the hospital and they're getting hit and everything.
I woke up in the night and I seen them ramming my dad and everybody else. I wish they never did that because they think we're just trying to not share with their lobster. We could share.
Mad. It's like they're just trying to destroy everything that we have and take over.
I don't know what they'll do next. Might even accidentally kill somebody.
Les eaux troubles de l'an dernier ont laissé chez les parents et les enfants un sentiment de découragement. Les Mi'kmaq organisent un camp d'été et créent un cercle où tout le monde peut participer.
They've had quite an immersion of their culture. It was reenacting how our communities were 30, 40 years ago. And I'm quoting an elder from our community that this is the lifestyle that he remembers. We were, sharing our food and living together. It was really wholesome.
We had activities. We had marshmallows at night. We learned how to drum, learned how to make baskets and crafts out of clay.
We had also teenagers there who was volunteering. There were camp leaders. The younger ones really looked up to them as role models. It was such a success all the way around. Part of the objective of this camp was also to try and establish a healthier relationship with the authorities. It was a miracle to see the Canadian Army and Aboriginal Rangers work together to put up the camps for the youth. And our children got to witness that this was all for them.
We have our own way with them, like we take them off a little further down the river maybe, and let them do whatever they want on the boat. Like we kind of drive a little fast with them and they jump off the boat, and that's what they learn. Now we can't do that in front of the councillors, because they get upset with us. So
it was good to see that they were feeling safe enough to start to share how they felt about what happened last year. And during the sweat lodge ceremonies, it was something to witness and hear them talk about their prayers that the federal authorities leave their parents alone. Let us fish in peace. It's our culture. And so, hearing them say that is like makes me feel hopeful that we're going to have a very strong future.
De retour au tribunal, le juge décide que le gouvernement fédéral doit subventionner le conseil juridique dont auront besoin les Mi'kmaq.
I feel optimistic. It's been a really long haul, looking for legal consultation. We haven't been too successful in raising the funds that we need to get proper legal advice and representation. So I hope that this decision on the one case follows through in the rest of them because they're all complex and it is a very important issue. And like the judge said, it affects many, many, many Aboriginal people, if not all.
But today is a good day. You know, it's good news for all of us.
What is the cost to the Canadian people and the taxpayers for denying Aboriginal rights? It's becoming more expensive to deny Aboriginal people than it is to allow them to exist under their own sovereignty and jurisdiction and deal with them in a good faith manner on a nation-to-nation basis.
En août 2001, la communauté tient ses élections biennales. Wilbur de Dam, le chef actuel, et Leo Bartiboak se présentent à la chefferie. Wilbur de Dam est réélu par une très faible majorité avec quelques changements au sein de son conseil. Leo est élu conseiller de bande. L'anxiété préélectorale et les pressions continues exercées par le gouvernement pour signer une entente avec le conseil de bande ont laissé la communauté déchirée. Et une autre saison de pêche est sur le point de commencer.
There's about 1,300 people here on the reserve.
And the majority is very young?
Oh, the majority here is very young. There's a lot of young people here. That's the ones I went to go see a lot during election. They came here, we talked about a lot of things. There isn't really too much for them to do on the reservation, eh? It's so boxed in and there's not much to do. There's no dances, there's no playground for them, there's no basketball court, there's nothing like that for them to do around here. You can imagine if there's nothing here to them to do, what's left, you know? Just drugs and alcohol. And you know what leads to that after that, suicide, stuff like that. A lot of people are anxious to go back to fishing. I know I am. That's part of my life.
Is that Brian?
Yeah, that's right. Oh, crazy Brian. He's something else, eh? He's a good guy, Brian. Yeah, he cares a lot about the community, too.
He didn't run this year.
No, he didn't run.
The results of the election have been disappointing for me. I'm not going to hide that. The current leadership and the balance of power have shifted to leadership that's been prone to signing agreements. We're hoping that the community will prevail, that the community will stand up and continue to defend their treaty right. And if the people lead, you know, our leaders will follow. And that's what got us to this point so far, that our community will has been very strong in the defense of our treaties, and we won't allow an Indian Act chief and council to interfere with that. And I think that is what is echoing throughout this country, that the federal government's initiatives and policies no longer will do.
It remains the position of Burn Church not to enter into an interim agreement as proposed by the federal government, but to fish under our own fisheries management plan.
Chief and Council is looking for solutions within the Canadian system. As long as Chief and Council is willing to stay on the right path and fight for their people, we'll always be willing to back them up. Because we don't see them just as Chief and Council, we also see them as members of our community. And we'll be willing to back them as long as they're doing the right thing for the people. If they do something that's detrimental to the people, then we have no choice. We have to turn around and tell them we don't recognize your actions. We can no longer support what you're doing, and we'll go out and defend the people that wish to fish according to their inherent right.
I just want everything to stop. I want us Indians to fish. I want us to live our lives the way we used to be. This is our culture, our way of life. Us people that don't have jobs, that are still on social assistance, that can't even go out in the real world and try to get a job. We try, but we can't. Some people do reject us. You know, they won't give us a job. Some of them, because of our color maybe, or the way we live or something. I'm not too sure. We only have this in the woods, If they shut this down, we have nothing.
You know, it's bad enough you go and you cash your welfare check. Everybody in the non-native community knows we go and we cash our welfare checks at their stores. You know, they look at us, yeah, we're on welfare. You know, but the feeling of having it bounce. Well, it kills your spirit. Are people willing to make a change? Are they willing to open up their eyes and see? Or do they just not care? Or has it been 500 years of oppression that's got us to this point where we're psychologically incapable of making change? I don't know. We can't do it. I mean, it's not like it was 5 years. This just happened in the past 5 years. This takes years and years and years, and generation after generation.
One day I was talking to a kid and he was talking about he can't wait till he get his own welfare. I mean, that's not right. I don't like that. So when I talk to him and talk about fishing and or working in the woods, you know, there's more than just having welfare, you know. It really got me going. If we stand now and have the right to fish in the future, that person won't have to rely on welfare and look forward to welfare when he gets old enough. You'll have more, hopefully. I see the same eye when I look at the old leaders, the picture, and I see it in our kids. I see the same eye, you know, the sparkle. And it's powerful, I feel it. If they'll be my leader, I'll follow.
These traps were donated by other reserves because our fishermen lost all their traps, but the DFO took them all, and every time that happens, people from other reserves, even all the way back from Ontario, they donated food or the traps, and some even, the Big Cove guys even brought their boats when we lost some of ours. Some of them have to be repaired a little, I guess, but they're still good enough to use. They'll lose them anyway.
We're managing the fishery with the fishermen from Burn Church. With 26 rangers from Espanol-Beach. It's all volunteer, all voluntary basis. It was the same situation as last year, where it was like 24 hours, 7 days a week. We had rangers from Aristogouche Reserve that came in and assisted us. The community again was there as well to help protect our rights and our fishery. None of us are armed. We don't see any need for us to be armed because we're here to protect our people as opposed to going into a gunfight type thing. We don't need that. It's not going to solve nothing.
There's a lot of RCMP around now. They're at the wharf, Burn Church Wharf. They got their own headquarters in Nouveau-Brunswick. One day they could come here, there'll be 20 cop cars next day. That's how it comes, that's how it goes. And it's just right in between the communities, Nouveau-Brunswick and Burn Church. They got their main headquarters. So they're keeping an eye out. You see helicopters, you see planes going by. It's not what it was last year, but it only takes, it don't take long for that to come back.
Well, I felt very good last year. Our policing model was a model that we called the measured approach. And that measured approach was founded upon two fundamental principles. That was for mutual respect of both communities, as well as respecting the dignity of all people. And paramount with that measured approach was the emphasis on a problem-solving approach that dealt with many tools in a toolbox called communication, dialogue, facilitation. And the last tool that we ever wanted to use
was one of enforcement. And I think our model was a great success last year when you compare the crisis compared to Oka, Ipperwash, and Gustafson Lake. Our presence here, once again, is to achieve our fundamental goal of safe homes, safe communities.
At this point, I'm feeling that the only way to avoid any more violence, it seems like we have to silence ourselves up again, quiet, so we won't be targeted. No violence will come our way. But if we don't exercise our rights, if we don't assert our rights, we'll die spiritually, and so we'll die physically also.
The ban just said it would begin fishing today.
Dali Wall informe les Mi'kmaq qu'ils ont encore 7 jours pour pêcher légalement, dans l'espoir d'arriver à négocier une entente d'ici là.
Right now, senior officials from my department are in New Brunswick, prepared to meet immediately with the community's newly elected chief and council.
All we've wanted to do is fish and provide for our children. It is hard to earn a moderate livelihood in 7 days. With 500 traps for a community of 1,500 people, the math just doesn't work.
He says this isn't a commercial license at all. This is only for ceremonial and food purposes for the powwow. What do you think of this license?
The reality is he's using a double language. He is on one hand saying, yes, there's a commercial component. On the second hand, he's saying that there's a food and social and ceremonial.
Is this good enough?
Oh, absolutely, positively, without a doubt in my mind, no.
Well, this is a declaration way beyond his jurisdiction. Now, I say that based on the fact that as Mi'kmaq people, we have never given away our lands or our resources. People have to realize the nature of our treaties. They're peace and friendship. This isn't land surrender. This isn't any type of conditional surrender. We have never given up sovereignty. We have never given up traditional government. That doesn't exist within the context of our treaties. So how is it that the Minister of Fisheries and Oceans can just walk in and now tell us you can't fish? It's not up to them.
Now they're giving us 7 days. 7 days. What happens on the 8th? You know, it's again we'll have to see and watch from the shorelines. It's like last year.
Well, I went fishing anyway. Got my lobster.
This is day 4 or 5. Put traps in. I still haven't checked them yet.
Yeah.
Just don't have time. Motor was down and just don't have time to do it yet. That's the problem is right now Burn Church is getting isolated, right? You're almost having a law enforcement siege being conducted around Burn Church. And they want to isolate us, so the only thing we got is just ourselves and what little resources we have to fight this off, right?
How about boats?
It's a big problem. Lack of boats. That's our problem.
Come in?
Oh, from
No, I mean, to help you out?
Well, my understanding is 2 of them tried to come in on the weekend from Big Cove, but the RCMP turned them around. We're not getting them in. Well, I don't know what's going to happen with this DFO. I don't know. They're going to give us a week or something like that, is it? But I'm going to haul of them out Monday morning, just to be on the safe side anyway.
Did you have any of your traps seized?
The last fall, yeah. I had seized 100. Yeah. I put in 50. They seized them all. I put another 50 in and then seized them all again. Yeah. Never got them back.
Yeah, I was wondering why a facility like this for a small community, small area like this?
All we're asking is everybody on all sides to ensure that everybody treats everybody with mutual respect and understanding, and we're just here to keep the peace.
But this is also in conjunction with the DFO. You are working together with DFO on this operation, eh?
Well, we're working with everybody to allow dialogue, communication.
Dialogue to happen, because this is all we want, peace.
Yes.
And This is kind of intimidating when you see anything like this for a small community of 15 to...
Well, we're here for your protection as well.
I hope so. I hope to God it's not to enforce DFO regulations and the federal government's way of intimidating the people of Skinawabinies and the surrounding area. Because I wasn't even aware of this building, what was going on, till I heard a few individuals, and we're just down for the powwow this weekend. I hope we don't need to come back for anything else.
I have to go out there. I can't exercise my rights on land. I have to be out in the water, and I think I already have some traps out there. My wife don't want me to go out there. She doesn't she thinks I shouldn't be out there at this time, because I've been getting calls left and right from government officials, and these calls are all they're all kind of warning me about, think about all this, think about what's going on, I am a little bit concerned about my life. I am.
Au lieu de reconnaître les droits acquis par les Mi'kmaq, Dhaliwal persiste à offrir de nouvelles ententes, chacune comportant son lot différent de restrictions.
A limited small-scale commercial fishery. In a restricted area of Miramichi Bay.
L'offre la plus récente inclut une prolongation de la saison de pêche jusqu'au 20 octobre, mais dans un périmètre réduit et pour seulement 900 cages.
These type of agreements are nothing more than equivalent to somebody stealing a vehicle from you and trying to negotiate how many hours you can actually access your own vehicle.
We need to go out, way out to, because it gets colder, the water gets colder and the lobster gets further.
Lobster goes out when the water gets colder.
Boundaries means reservation. It's another part of putting another reservation on the water for us.
There's rumors that they'll come in and destroy our traps, or people will come in and fight us, and that scares me. I don't allow my children to go out late because I'm scared something's going to happen, or somebody will take them, or
I hope nobody gets hurt over this. But my opinion is we have to do this. We have to do this. We can't keep backing down, and now with this new boundary line that they're imposing, there's nothing there to fish. I mean, there's nothing there, and they know that we have to follow our lobster out. We've been doing that for years.
There's no reaction from them. You'll get no reaction from them. Huh? They're driving for right trucks over there. Do it. There's your phone going to take two garments from you. They refuse an interview.
I have 10 traps set out right along in front of the wharf where the boats approached. I lost traps, and I know many people here in Burchurch that were set along the border where all this was happening. RCMP was sitting on the wharf. They have high-powered binoculars. They would have to see. It was still daylight.
The non-natives, 22 boats, had come in and started grabbing our traps. They were maybe just a kilometer off our shoreline, so it wasn't very far away, and we could watch them from our shoreline. We're just sitting there, you could basically, as a spectator would, watch what's going on. So it's very evident, the actions that were being taken place. The RCMP were just a little ways down on the wharf, were also watching what was going on, but did absolutely nothing.
I called 911, they hanged up on me. My girlfriend called 911, they hanged up on her. Her father called, they hanged up on him.
At that point in time, we realized we have to do something ourselves. So the Rangers, our Burn Church Rangers, went out in, I believe it was 2 boats, maybe 3, very small boats, to go take on 22 non-native fishing boats. As they got out there, that's when the RCMP started to mobilize, not to go down the water and stop the non-native fishermen from destroying our gear, but to go after our guys.
They said they're investigating. They haven't questioned nobody about traps being lost, you know. They certainly haven't come and seen me anyway. I mean, you know, and I don't care if they come and see me or not. They ain't gonna help me out anyway. It's been proven last year and the year before they're not here to help Native people. It's going to be expensive. Last year I lost 70-some traps. I barely had enough to give to my father, to my aunt and uncle, the family, you know. But other than thinking that I made money off that, no Native people in Burn Church have made too much money on this.
They talk about the Indians endangering their livelihood with no regard to Indians making a livelihood. They've mistaken our kindness for weakness.
Why can't we fish? There's 240,000 traps out there as we speak today. 240,000 traps. We only have 5,600. And I just don't understand it. I don't understand why the big fuss, you know? Why is it that when we have our 5,600 traps in the water, it's conservation? When they have 240,000 in there, it's a livelihood. I just don't understand.
Bravo, bravo, there's Archangel over.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we just get a confirmation there's 3 DFO boats leaving Niguac Wharf, over.
Okay, 10-4, we're going to take a closer look from an advantage point, over.
Roger that, over.
The deadline is over with now.
As you can see, we're still fishing. Actually, this is too far. They want us further inside where there's no lobster. What we want is the whole bed. Good over there, the horseshoe they call that. And that's the place where they're protected. They don't want us near there because there's a lot of lobster there. And what they'll do is they will gather their forces to chase us out. And it's really hard when you have to look over your shoulder when you're fishing. You shouldn't be fishing like that. I know in the commercial season, they don't have to look over their shoulders because we're not going to be there harassing them. But yet they do that to us because they don't want us in the water, period. Mas pasiyan ni medyo ko di. Ha? Ni na nanan jama hanak kedua cida. Medyo akon. Well, jadi lagi no na this happen na dali educated 16. Ala kasi cigu ajak na mo. Na haluk tigani wa na you know they don't dali siya mat nakadi nama santes nom sako. Mana tiga mago sumbo ko. Bunno dandele gani ho. Rodol ni medyo ko ni sigala sisibi. Mo ndala ko. Mulai bit. Ni medyo ko ni ndala. Siwali jiga kis penology. Gambas mana ni medyo no dele ngi gana. Well, I want to say so many rangers. The rangers? أنا دو. وصلت هنا. أبي عادي. أبي. Okay. Come on.
La date limite arrive et passe. Aucune entente n'est signée. Les Mi'kmaq continuent de pêcher durant octobre. Les pêcheurs non autochtones continuent de protester. Une flottille s'approche. Des coups de feu sont tirés. Sur l'eau, on se croirait en zone de guerre, alors que les enfants et les parents observent de la rive.
God, that is, I can't even count them. What are they all doing?
Want to scare the Indians? They will stop fishing?
Is that all the Indians?
No, it's white people.
Holy God.
À ce jour, aucun des bateaux et des cages qui ont été confisqués n'ont été retournés. En février 2002, John David Dedem est reconnu coupable d'avoir lancé des pierres et est condamné à 3 ans de prison. L'enquête de la GRC conclut qu'il n'y a aucune preuve de méfait de la part du ministère des Pêches et Océans. Donc, aucun grief pour leur intenter un procès. Le tribunal du banc de la Reine annule la décision de la Cour inférieure sur les subventions que devaient recevoir les Mi'kmaq pour leur conseil juridique. Les Mi'kmaq devront subir un procès à leurs propres frais, mais évidemment, ils se pourvoiront en appel eux aussi.
First, doing this is a waste of money. Really, if you look at it, taxpayers' money. Geez, they spent, I think, 15 million last year.
Imagine, yeah.
Where's the government going to get that back? That should have went to the hospitals and education.
Yeah.
Instead of fighting Indians, I mean, his rights are there. He put a lot of money fighting the man's rights, where he should have went the other way. You asked the government to go for a good cause, like. They said no money. Where do you get money to fight the Indian? Eh? It sounds crazy to me. You?
Yes.
Where you get the money to fight Indians? You should have went to health care or something.
We don't need strength anymore. We don't need any more strength. We came from bad situations. We know what it's like. We know what it's like to live in, with, seeing your parents drinking, seeing, no food for 4 days. We know this stuff. We have the strength. We know that that's where our strength comes from. It's a fucking hell of a way to get strength, but, that's how you get it, And we have that. We don't need any more. We need hope.
I'm determined not to stay in a life of poverty. And I believe that every member in a Escanua village wants to experience something different than poverty. I will continue to fish, and I will continue to hunt and gather, because it's not just a livelihood, it's our way of life. This is what defines us as Mi'kmaq, that needs to be respected in this country.